I have one or two in the wood stories to share if anyone's interested. Screen cap if you want, so others can enjoy too. At first, a bit of information about me and my senpai. My mom and dad. My dad and mom are both employed by the German government. He as a forester. She as a ranger in a national park. I also have two younger sisters, but they aren't relevant to the story. Dad was assigned to look after a patch of protected nature called
Kuhkopf-Knoblauchsaue,
which is a small but densely vegetated isle and a bordering forest, both separated by the old Rhine. Within the forest was a small estate, built around 1770 by some noble to host hunting parties. My parents jumped at the chance and moved in. I wasn't born yet. The estate wasn't that big. A one-family house with an attic and cellar. A larger house called the
Saubucht,
where the parties took place. My dad is a hunter, so he kinda continued the tradition of this place. Elongated shack for animals and a huge barn. The estate was around 7 kilometers from the next big road, and the nearest neighbor was 2 kilometers away. Because of this, I had very few friends. But on the other hand, I had the biggest playground ever, and I often ran through the woods alone to explore. You can't say weird occurrences were the daily norm, but there are a few I can still remember. Also, Pickrell is set estate. I share it because we don't live there anymore, and now it's unoccupied. Fug. I forgot to mention the, at least for me, most important building. A small shack that was erected a few kilometers away from our house during World War II by a local Gauleiter for hunting. It consists of one main room with desk and oven, and a smaller one, which is connected to the main room. There is also a small workroom, but it has its separated door. Later the shack was deconstructed and rebuilt right beside the estate, but the fundament, out of the concrete, is still to be found in its original place. Because of the history of this shack, we called it simply the Nazi shack, and after I cleaned it, we had a lot of memorable parties there. Pickrell is said shack. My first story is about an evening in this shack. Be around 18 years old. Have party with two friends. Planned in Nazi shack. Buddy 1, let's call him Lou, is already there, and we're stocking the shack with booze, beer, wood, and food. Because as soon as Buddy 2, let's call him Ali, arrives, we're planning to get hammered. Around 9 p.m., it's starting to get dark. Finish stocking, sit down and wait for friend. Eventually, smoking a moderately sized doink. Finish doink, but friend's still not here. It's already dark outside. Hey Anon, I'm bored. Remember, I have Worms 4 Mayhem on my PC, which we use to play a lot. Sure thing, we go back to the house. Leave the lights on so Ali sees we're ready to go, but closing the door so no animals can harass our stoned asses later. Fire up PC, and we start to play a few rounds. The window in my room is tilted, so we can hear Ali's car. After 3 rounds, I hear something like a motor and tires coming to halt on gravel. Ask Lou about it. He heard it too. We look out of window. We had a good sight on the front of the shack. And sure enough, we see a person open the door of shack and entering. The figure walked against the light, so all we saw was the black silhouette going inside. The silhouette looked like Ali, some bushy hair at shoulder's length, same leather coat and same height. Time to fuck us up, .jpg. Lou and I are grabbing some stuff like glasses, a pot and matches, and proceeding to the shack in the darkness. If the door wouldn't have been open, we would have needed a torchlight to not trip and fall on the nettles on our way there. Enter shack, ready to hurl friend abuse at Ali. But Ali's not there. He must be fucking with us. Search workroom, which is the only other one with working light. Also nothing. We didn't find him outside either. In fact, on second look, there's no car of him in sight. Lou and I get worried because of an accident I will tell you later of. We get inside the shack again, because we were too chicken to walk back to the house in the dark, which was literally less than 50 meters away. We had our reasons not to. Believe me. Sat down. Tried to call Ali, but in the woods there's no connection as usual. We're still angsty as fuck. The smaller room connected to the main room via a door was mainly used for storage of empty barrels my dad used to make nettle manure in. Door slightly opened. Door is usually kept closed. Lou and I grab what we can, which is a small hatchet and a branch, place each other in front door, and try in several minutes to man up. Literally screaming to fend off our panic when kicking the door open. Nothing but barrels and an open window. Guess what? Window is usually kept closed because it has no panels anymore. Suddenly, hear a swooshing sound like branches rubbing over the roof. Very, very heavy breathing. Sound has seemingly no origin. Comes literally from everywhere. LOL. Nope. Close door again and lock it. The sound continues and we check outside. No wind since we're in the middle of a goddamn forest. We couldn't hear the sound out there too, so it must have come from the crawl spaces either between the floorboards and ground, large enough for a large dog to crawl under, or under the roof. Sound goes on for a few minutes and eventually fades away. Lou and I are clueless what just happened, so commence 420. Doink is still burning when Ollie finally arrives. Ask him if he forgot something at home, so he had to drive away again. Get a weird look from Ollie. What are you talking about? Tell him story. He doesn't believe us. Go back in shack. Swooshing sound is back. Needless to say, we played worms for the rest of the evening. So both Lou and I saw a person, looking very much like our buddy, entering the shack after we heard a car which wasn't there, and after we heard something rummaging or breathing in a crawl space. This occasion was the first, but not the last time we heard that sound. Every other evening we had a party there. We would hear the swoosh, swoosh for an extended time before again would fade away. After a few times, we didn't think much of it anymore. Another story? Maybe the reason we were mortified after not finding Ali? Alright then. Behind estate is a large meadow with apple trees, which is connected through a gap between the trees, large enough for a car to pass. The second meadow has no apple trees, is more narrow, and has, at least for me, a natural amount of small trees, with white bark standing at the tree line. The second meadow, no, not birches. I know how these look. I used to call them witch trees because they would always stand alone with no other trees within at least 20-meter radius. Be me, around 17 years old, fresh out of school. Time to hit the sack and enjoy life. I'm pretty good at drawing, so I carry my scrapbook and pencils literally everywhere because I'm Mirren. Those looks from others. Early evening. Sun is still out for an hour or so. Roll doink. Pack stuff. Grab sippage and proceed onto the first meadow. Meadow was taken care of by local farmer, so around summertime, there was always haystacks lying around. Go all across meadow and place myself on haystack near the tree line. Must have been about 30 meters distant at most, because the sun will shine there for the longest before disappearing behind trees. Smoke doink, sip on sippage, draw shit, and listen to music. Feels good, man. WMA. Sun is getting down. Still bright day, but no more direct sunlight touches my corner of the meadow. Decide to stay a little longer before going home, even if drawing gets more difficult by the minute. Suddenly hear something rustling through the bushes at the tree line. Turn down music and scan for movement. What do your elven eyes see, Legolas? From where I sat, I could make out what appeared to be a shadowy figure of a large boar rummaging through the branches and tall weeds growing there. Wonder how this fucker got there, since the part of the meadow I was on had a fence going all the way along the tree line, so the boars wouldn't eat our apples, out of which we used to make apple juice and cider. Knowing my shit, I climbed down from haystack, and slowly going backwards towards the house in order to not piss the beast off. My dad once had to scale a tree and sat there for 5 hours because a female boar had attacked him and chased him up there. So I had no intention to test my luck. Shadow moves a little bit to the right. I immediately could tell something was off, but I'm still moving backwards, slowly. Couldn't put my fingers on it at first, but right away it dawned on me. It's getting taller. It's standing up. That's not a fucking boar, my son. It had a big white stripe on its back and was moving in a halfway crouched manner, bending its knees and back, which it turned to me the moment before it disappeared through the bushes. Local wildlife isn't very popular for walking bipedal. You know, the fight or flight spiel? In my case, it was the latter. The second I saw the white stripe, I booked it. I sprinted 200 meters to my house in mere seconds. Usain Bolt would have eaten my dust. I was in full panic mode, not even bothering to open the gate, but simply jumping at and scaling it. Dad is in the yard, gives me a bewildered look. "The fuck is wrong with you, son?" Tell Dad about Shadow Figure. He tells me right away. Must have been a hobo. Don't believe him, but he sticks to his explanation. My area isn't very popular for hobos, especially not the part I was living in, since all there was forest and the Rhine. Not even a nearby ferry to cross the river. There was only one road in the next town, was more than 7 kilometers away. So what on earth should a hobo do there, other than spying on the local stoner? I returned the next day around noon to search for IDK, at least something. I find nothing but a large hole in the fence where the shadow disappeared. The fence is literally made out of sheets of reinforced wire mesh. It has a hole in it. Decide to never ever go out to the meadow alone anymore. Since then, I always get an eerie feel when walking around the meadow, especially the second one. Living there taught me some lessons. It's the reason I'm pagan today, and why I'm highly suspicious when it comes to ghosts, natural spirits, and wards against such forces. There are a few other stories, but these are so short, I have to summarize them in the next post. Picro is a crude mapping of my old home. You can see the estate on the road northeast leading out of the woods. I also marked the spot where I saw the shadow for you guys, as well as the estimate original location of the Nazi shack. Can't put my finger on it since it has been a few years. Historically speaking, my area saw a fair share of bloodshed. The Swedes crossed the Rhine on wooden gates when fighting against Spain, and an awful lot of soldiers died in the swamps that spanned the area back then. During World War II, an Allied bomber crashed in a nearby lake and the crew drowned. Another one crashed on a field and the residents of Leheim beheaded them, parading their skulls on pitchforks. During the town in the forest of
Knoblauchsaue.
There are multiple craters from bombing runs, and you can still see some debris like rusted helmets and even ammunition where the Americans had their bridgehead. Behind the estate is an aerial bunker my sisters and I used to slide down in winter. A pre-World War II pilot crashed in the forest because of iced elevators and died. And lastly, I still don't know how, a trash tank lies a few hundred meters away from my house. Near one of those craters, I found a huge-ass butter knife in there, and I still have it today. What follows now are a loose connection of minor happenings. Be me, very young. Can't tell off the top of my head how old exactly. Had gone swimming with dad and sisters. Went to New Rhine, so we made a bike tour out of it. Swam, all fine. Then we left. I'm eager to get home again. Gotta go fast. Dad and sisters are not inside anymore. I am speed. Suddenly, a loud, sharp sound comes from the bushes to my left. So startled, I nearly fell off my bike. Sound is metalish, like someone sharpening a knife, but fuck-ass loud. So loud that you could think it's right beside you. Sound stops and I book it out of there. Be me, about 29 years old. Metalhead, so I have long hair, requiring a hairband. Home alone. Go to cooling cell, where not only the carcasses of deers and boars, but also the sweet succulent thing called beer. Enter building and it's dirty and looked like it's straight out of a horror flick. Rusty hooks hanging from the ceiling, with an integrated scale because Dad had to cut up animals there back then. The floor underneath is so drenched in blood, you can't scrub it clean. I had to try once because I spilled the blood bucket. Opening cooling cell, and it stinks of death and blood, Get beer. Closed door. Want to go back, but stop when I see one of my hairbands lying on the floor. That's weird. Bow down to pick it up. Suddenly, something pulls my hair. Literally pulls it out of my ponytail. Be dumbfounded. Be me, 7 or 9 years old. Be on bike tour with Dad. Still in forest. I notice a rancid smell. Tell Dad. Smells like dead animal. Live in the woods since birth, so I saw and smelled dead animals before, but never was it so intense. Proceed with bike tour. Later return to part of road where the stench is. Stench still there. Dad gets off bike and tells me to stay on road. Be good boys, so I oblige. Dad wanders a few meters into the bushes and stops in front of what seems to be a blue trash bag. He opens it up, and the smell gets like 100 times worse. Later, Dad told me someone had dumped 3 dead sheep on the forest, trying to conceal the smell in the trash bag, but the summer sun did its part. Weirdly enough, the sheep weren't from our area, since our local shepherd, we used to know very well, by the way, Rip,
Schafsjürgen.
had a completely different breed of sheeps. This is the last post for me, since that is all I can remember. I hope you had some fun to read. If some anons are interested, I'm willing to show the place and its surroundings. I still have a key. Pickerel is the knife I found in the tank. It's one of my most precious belongings, even though the worth is more sentimental than material. These aren't my stories, but ones that my little brother told me. He's a geoscience grad student at the moment. He's been doing fieldwork in Wyoming for about 4 years now. Usually, in summer, he's seen most of the wildlife there is to see up there. Shy of cougars, who apparently avoid their camps. He also seen some weird shit that he couldn't explain. I'm fuzzy on technical details, since we're that close. And I've never paid much attention to his studies. So most of the fieldwork stuff he told me is where things get a bit confused. I'll try not to go into any of the jargony stuff he told me, since I'm sure I'd get it wrong beyond the basics. Anyway, the stories. Story 1. Day 0. Roughly 2-week undergrad externship program in Wyoming. Spans over spring break plus a week. Dave shows up with 2 classmates from his program, Kelly and Junior. Meets the other externs, total of 20 people in his class session. Going to be doing survey work and checking up on geothermal activity, or some such. Taking core samples, mapping terrain and formations, Doppler readings, all that jazz. Students camping in tents, but there's a trailer to store equipment. A few outbuildings for cooking and showers, and a fence around the compound. Also 2 latrines and a semi-permanent shelter with concrete floor and tables. Rustic, but safe enough. Dave and Junior sharing a really swaggy big tent that got ditched a previous internship by an international student. Common event, apparently, since they can't transport them home easily. Kelly plants her single near theirs in a rough circle of tents. Orientation time. Class divided up in 5 groups of 4 and assigned territory and tasks. Dave, Junior, and Kelly, all in different groups. First night it's pretty quiet, but cold as balls, and there's a light dusting of fresh snow the next morning. Day 1 through 3. Everyone's up before first light to get ready for fieldwork. Groups split up and head off. Each group has a supervisor, and are taken to a specific survey area in a truck by said supervisor. First few days of work goes as planned, no surprises. A bit more snowfall during the first half of the week, but no problem. Day 4. On the 4th morning, while they're eating breakfast, Kelly asks if the boys came and tapped on her tent the night before. Dave and Junior say no. They were wiped and went straight to sleep. Kelly says she woke up with someone tapping on her tent just by her head and whispering her name. By the time she got up and unzipped the flap, they were gone. They decided it must have been one of her group members trying to ask her about the previous day's data, or the next day's work. Who knows? She decides to pursue it later, when they go out to work. Day continues again as normal. Nighttime again. Dave and Junior are shooting the shit before going to sleep. Hear someone tapping their tent at their feet before they go to sleep. Is anyone there? Hello? From outside the tent, sounds like Kelly. They turn on the lamp, open up the flap, but nobody's there. Figure she went back to her tent. Light is on inside. Dave goes and asks her what she wanted. No response. No one inside. Fresh snow again. Footprints leading away from her tent towards the latrines. Dave assumes she just wanted someone to walk over there with her, since it's dark as fuck, other than the motion lamps. He shrugs, heads back to his tent, and goes to sleep. Day 5 through 12. Next day, Kelly doesn't join them for breakfast and eats with her survey team instead. Don't get to ask what she wanted. Dave feels weird all day and notices that his work team is really jumpy. One of Dave's workmates insists he saw a bear while they were in the field, and they decided that's why everyone is on edge. Some kind of primordial instinct can sense the predator lurking or some shit. Night rolls around again, and Dave and Junior are about to sleep when the tapping comes again. It's really dark. I can't see you. Come out. Kelly's voice again. Junior tells her, Just a second, I'll turn on the lamp. They open the tent. No Kelly. Her tent isn't lit up. Footprints aren't clear because there's been no fresh snow all day. Fuck it. They go and tap on Kelly's tent. Light turns on and she chews them out for waking her up again. Again? Dave apologizes and drags Junior back to their tent. Dave tells Junior about the bear one guy saw at this point. Junior makes jokes about skinwalkers on the mountain, and they both go to sleep feeling a bit on edge. Day 6. Next morning, everyone in camp seems a bit out of it. People talking about the stupid pranks everyone else is pulling, and no one is getting enough sleep. Bearsider mentions Dave tapping on his tent. Dave mentions Kelly. Two other guys both mention someone else entirely. Almost everyone reports some kind of mysterious nighttime visitor that wasn't there. They're starting to get a bit paranoid, and the supervisor tells them to knock it off with the pranks. There's work to be done. The pranks continued for the rest of the trip, but no one was hurt, turned up acting weird, or went missing. People were just jittery and ready to get the fuck out of the camp by the end of it all. Story 2. Summer internship time. Sweet. Free days, so Dave and Mo, international student on his first time. Go hiking. Pack lunch, Dave's gun, and bear mace. Head out into woods. Beautiful scenery, fantastic views. They go do their thing, and Dave is snapping photos to send to his girlfriend back home. Suddenly, Dave notices Mo isn't beside him anymore. They're at the top of the ridge, looking into a particularly picturesque valley. Lots of dense trees, not a lot of visibility. Dave doesn't panic, figures Mo had to shit and stepped out of view. Starts calling Mo's name. No answer, just echoes. Oh. Dave doesn't leave the ridge, but starts looking around for any signs of this guy. Nothing in sight, so he keeps calling the guy's name. Eventually, he hears 3 blasts from the safety whistle. Oh. Dave starts to backtrack the way they came, figuring that Mo turned around before him and got lost / went off the trail. Another 3 blasts, this time louder. Dave keeps following the sound, but there's no Mo. By now, Dave thinks something fucked up is going on, and gets out the bear mace just in case. Apparently, he contemplated his handgun, but didn't go for it. He stops and waits to see if he hears any more whistles. Sure enough, 3 blasts, practically on top of him. Dave almost jumps out of his skin. Mo comes running down the hill, out of nowhere, and slams into him. Dave is pissed. Almost bear maces Mo in the face. Demands to know where he went. Mo is equally pissed, and demands to know why Dave left them standing on the ridge all alone. They confer, and it comes to light that neither of them blew their safety whistle, though they both heard it. Both thought that they had wandered off the ridge and was calling for help. No more whistleblowing follows. No one else from camp was going hiking. Camp is isolated from normal camping areas or parks. Dave and Mo nope the fuck back to camp as fast as they can go, even though they plan out to be several more hours. Story 3. Same summer internship as story above. Hiking with different intern, Joey. Everything's going good. They're looking for a place to chill out and have lunch. Find a little creek, blabbing away. Only a few feet across and super shallow. Being geology geeks, they start discussing whether this should be on the survey or not. Outside of target zone, but still possibly relevant because of water source, etc. After lunch, they pack up and start heading back the way they came towards the camp. They pack up and start to head back the way they came towards camp. Except, it's not the way back towards camp. It's almost like they found a loop or some shit. Keep ending up back at the creek. After about an hour of this, they decide to just follow the creek bed for a while to see if maybe they just turned down the wrong paths. Stop when they find a weird little cairn on an island in the middle of this narrow creek. Jolly geeks and rock hounds, so they notice the rocks don't match the area quite right. Pile of big chunks of limestone and huge green quartz at the base. Deer skull on top of the pile with its antlers crossed under it. Bleached from exposure, looks brittle and old. Dave says that they should go back the way they came before, because fuck that ritualistic looking horror movie shit. Joey agrees, but is weirded out mostly by the stones rather than the skull. No proper limestones deposited in the area apparently, and that kind of quartz is only in a specific part of the state. I wouldn't know, just repeating what Dave said here. They go back the way they came and finally get back on their trail properly. Dave tells me he thinks whatever built the pile of rocks and wanted them to see it before they left, like it was warning them to stay out of its territory or something. Dave and Joey went hiking another day with Mo, but couldn't find the creek or the cairn a second time. Dave was relieved because he didn't want to go back, but after their first hiking trip, Mo said he was curious. Story 4. Through stupid circumstances, Dave gets separated from his work crew in the field, middle of fucking nowhere on the mountain. Realizes he's lost. Fuck shit, damn it. Has a map and GPS, and all the safety gear he should have, but nothing is working quite right. E.g., compass is stuck and won't rotate to face magnetic north. GPS claims to have no signal. Phone likewise, no signal, and went from 80 charge to 5 in about 5 minutes. Fuck this shit. Fuck it to hell. Against better judgment, he decides to try and find his way back. Dave tries to backtrack, but can't seem to go in a straight line. He finally sits down and considers blasting the whistle to see if he can get attention from his group. Right as he's about to blow the whistle, a fuck off huge raven drops from a tree onto a rock formation a little ways from him. Raven puffs up real big and flies a few trees off with that croaky, cawing noise they make. Dave's impression of the sound cannot be described with text, but it was hilarious. Stops and puffs up again, watching him. Dave says he doesn't know why, but he decided to follow the raven. They don't generally come anywhere near people this far out. Just garbage if they can get it. So this bird was acting funny. Raven keeps up the leading game, flying a few yards ahead at a time, while Dave follows. After 30 minutes, Dave starts to recognize the terrain. After 45 minutes, he's almost back to the survey site, and this raven is gone. Didn't fly away, just disappeared when he looked away from it for a minute to get his bearings. Most of the other stories he told me weren't supernatural at all, just a bit eerie. He and his work crew ran into a bear face to face during summer once, at a distance of maybe 10 yards. It just looked at them for a few minutes and went back to rooting around and doing its thing. They also had a pack of wolves show up and check out their perimeter fence another time. Nothing malicious, just curious, and probably had smelled food or the like. They didn't come back. He had a couple of other spooky stories that were pretty bland. Things like his team encountering a guy in the woods, where there were no habitations, and he wasn't carrying gear like a camper or hiker either. He looked a bit like a farmer who'd just strolled out of his field, instead of a dense tree line. There was also a guy who got attacked in a lake while everyone was fishing. They decided to take a break, so he went for a swim. Had a huge row of bite marks on his leg, but they couldn't say what it was that did that. Eventually, put it down to some kind of introduced garfish and called it good. Nobody went swimming for the rest of that trip though. Mind if I ask you where in Wyoming? I currently live there and would love some spooky adventures. I'll shoot him an email to ask, since he didn't really say at the time. I went through his Instagram just now to see where he took photos during the periods the stories are from. Most of his vacation photos, from before and after each period of internship, are in Idaho, or the northwest portion of the state, so I'd assume his service trips were probably relatively close to the area as well. He got back to me and was a bit vague about Wyoming. He mentioned Cody, but otherwise was all over the state. He's also done more trips than I thought. He's up to 9 and maybe going again this year. He said he's also done trips to Montana and Idaho for survey stuff, and mentioned Elkhorn, Big Hole River, Idaho, and Tobacco Root Range, Montana. He also sent me a photo of all the tents left behind by students on these trips, set up in his yard. He now has a total of 9, plus the one he bought originally for himself years ago. The Ozarks have too many cryptids to get into. Fortunately, they're either benign or intelligent. Majority can be bribed with food and chewing tobacco. Just offer food or tobacco, and ask for any seemingly hostile creature's hospitality. You'll be fine. Those aren't cryptids, just rednecks. Around the Ozarks, I'd be more worried about wandering water people though. Wandering water people? Please do tell. I'm from a lake of the Ozarks. People who drink the tap water around here turn a certain way. Even if you aren't from here, which is actually a lot of people since some time ago lakefront property was cheap and there was a big rush to snatch it all. As people spread out over the years, they moved to different parts of the Ozarks, but they drank the tap water. Well, it's kinda like ghouls from Africa, except none of them are black. They shamble around as passive non-people in the cities, but you can ignore them since everyone in Missouri concealed carries and has a rifle in their car/truck. If they leave town, however, they turn feral. Again, camping's alright since there are tons of armed people there, but if you're out hiking or doing anything alone, you're at risk of being attacked. These aren't hicks, rednecks, or hillbillies, nor are they cryptids. Anyways, Missouri experiences every kind of weather once a week, so we're always on the edge of some catastrophe. When that happens, all the water people rush to the stores to buy all the bread and cheap local tap water. They don't walk, they shamble. They don't talk, they mumble. They always refuse to take the right way, passing everyone on until they are the last to turn. That's how passive these people are, which creates a not so hilarious situation when two water people are at an intersection trying to battle it out for who can be the last to go through a light. Southeast Missouri is prone to flooding, being so close to Mississippi. Well, at the edge of the Ozarks and rice fields are colonies of water people who, being stupid, build their houses on the floodplain. Every year it floods, and every year they are shocked that their property is destroyed, and then, over time, their colonies deteriorate. We aren't to the point that they are in total ruins, so who knows what will happen when their houses get condemned. They'll probably shuffle on to the next town. Nobody here really knows where they get their money, although I suspect it's from cooking meth and robbing people in the woods. And when I say they cook meth, really, non-water people do the hard parts for them, and they just sit around and watch as their house turns into a bomb. I'm not scared of skinwalkers, Alamaus, or even the ATF burning my house down, but agitated water people? I ran into a horde once. They, from when the supermarkets run out of bread and water during crisis. Obviously being a /K commando, I have emergency food stored for quite some time, but I went into a grocery store once during a tornado watch not thinking about it and nearly got mauled by an angry water person. These aren't just stupid. There are too many of them. They aren't your normal NPCs either. Worse than that, This is why Missouri is basically a mandatory concealed carry state. Shit, man. Do you have any idea what's in the water that causes that? Lead, maybe? When you say tap water, I assume you mean city water or bottled water, or something wrong with the entire watershed in that region. Also, would you care to share some stories or specific encounters, because I'm not seeing what separates these people from any other feral, displaced urbanites. You should also send a bottle of tap water out to be tested by a lab. Figure out what's in it. Would the authorities give a damn if you happen to kill some in self-defense? What are the relationships between these water people and law enforcement, local government, the rest of the general populace? What I'm getting at here is that there are lesser extent of zombies. Are you sure it's the water turning these people into ghouls? Or is there a possibility the gene pool there got fucked up through some inbreeding or whatever? Or maybe there's a disease that only some people are susceptible to getting. Is there any directory of information on any of this? I'm just so curious, since I have a fascination with zombie-like concepts in real life. So it's probably not inbreeding, unless they've mutated into having breeding and growth cycles of rodents. Alternatively, perhaps all the blood in the area attracted too much attention from cryptids, and they've all have just been replaced. I think I watched or read a pasta or something about a situation similar to yours. A dude, either accidentally or intentionally, drinking tap water and starts having hallucinations. The water thingy might possibly be linked to something chemical/parasite that mixes with the tap water. My best bet is to map the waterways where the tap is being sourced from. Bonus points if you found FEMA, CDC, mining, CIA, or some petroleum company doing something irresponsible or shady. Local brands of bottled water are bottled in various cities that produce water people. You either need a water well, filtered water, or bottled water from out of state to avoid becoming a water person. Also worth noting is the immediate passiveness goes away if people leave, but generally the lifestyle habits they adopt whilst being a water person have a more permanent effect. This spring from Missouri had all that flooding. A ton of people showed up at my work looking for emergency relief. I kept tabs on some of the people I suspected water people. Normally by now, regular people have their house repaired for winter, not the water people. They wanted the standing water out, and that was about it. They were willing to leave the water damage and mold. That's the standard descriptors, like a meth addict. Most are. Stained clothes, poor hygiene, poor form. They're easy to identify. One time, at another job, a water person was stealing from where I worked. It was some insane shit, like collectible minifigures, some headphones, so I go and monitor this guy while law enforcement is on the way. So I'm corner peeking the guy with some phone, and the guy rushes me with a knife he stole and opened. So I GTFO because I wasn't losing my job over some guy that stole $30 in random small shit, nor was I getting stabbed. Apparently his girlfriend was there playing lookout. They didn't come in together. They shambled around separate, and she never said anything, and he didn't even have a phone. I don't know how they communicated, or even knew I was there. There was this house of them up a hill from me. Their daughter was shambling down a 5-lane road at dusk, flipping people off and being a nuisance, and just past the crest, off the hill, a high-profile banker slammed into her with his truck. Needless to say, she died. The water people got really angry about that, especially after he got let off, considering she was on the roadway, over a hill on a road with a speed limit of 55. I suspect it's something that causes lethargy. I know it sounds like drug addicts. I lived in other places like Washington and Texas, and they don't have this kind of thing going on. I was talking to a man from Memphis once, and he told me how the blacks around here weren't like blacks anywhere else. If you've ever heard of Mark Twain, who is from around here, his Jim character perfectly captures what they're like. We have castle laws. If you get attacked, you can kill another person, and reasonable self-defense. Law enforcement is generally non-water people since since you actually have to try and be a cop around here, and they deal with enough that they have their own ways of identifying them. You don't get in trouble if you try to defend yourself from water people, but you will if you agitated them. Rich people and middle-class whites know something is wrong with these people, but most haven't traveled enough to realize to the extent how different they are from thralls in other places. As far as I know, there isn't much gathered information on them. Again, they just get confused with your normal meth heads or rednecks. The big thing is that it can happen to foreigners. I wouldn't be surprised if some Native American tribe cursed the land with this shit. The Ozarks are old swampland. Maybe it's parasites in the water. I'll probably research the waterways a bit, see if I can find out more for you guys. Just whatever you do, don't come to Missouri unarmed, like that would happen on /K. I got one for you. Might you have an explanation on why people out of their way to dig holes on the sides of mountains? The only real answer I've gotten is people have cold fever. The Ozarks. Isn't the entire area littered with karst formations? Probably something in those underwater caves that is doing it. I did ask my uncle about water people. He didn't know what I meant, so I showed him this and he said, No idea what that is, though my friend in Arkansas thinks Missouri. He did say it like this, didn't think to ask why. Water is intentionally irradiated, though, so that might explain certain behaviors your friend is noticing. Fucking how and why does he think that? The government uses Missouri to store nuclear waste. It's a shitty place to do that, and friend's a paranoid guy. That said, he's almost always right. Water people are real. What the fuck? I thought they were a legend cooked up by people on the internet. I've only shared this one with a few people, and still, when I think about it, it freaks me the fuck out. I was 16 or so, and growing up in a small town, exploring out in the hills was the thing to do. This incident took place at the north end of Ruby Valley in Elko County, Nevada. Someday, I will play around on Google Earth to try and find this place, but it is slightly north of the road, off of Highway 93 that goes into Ruby Valley. I always like checking out old mine shafts and ghost towns. That shit really intrigues me. At the Burger Bar in Wells, Nevada, where I am from and grew up, they had these old turn-off-the-century maps under glass on the tables. On one of them, it showed several ghost towns just north of Ruby Valley. So I figured I would go check them out, as I had been in the area very often. I gassed up my 72 Dodge W200 pickup, and being a redneck and /K before 4chan even, I grabbed my HK91 and set out. I had found some old foundations in the lower country and started heading into the mountains themselves and started finding abandoned mine shafts. Shit was pretty cool, so I kept it going. I took this ancient road that was no more than an overgrown cattle path by this point in history and came upon a tree blocking the road. It was an old pinyon pine, about 2 feet in diameter, that blocked the road. After the tree, the road continued straight for about 200 yards, then hooked right before coming back 180 degrees. Continuing though, gonna sketch up some key locations for the next post. I parked my truck in front of the tree and set out on foot. I grabbed my HK91 with one 20-round magazine in the rifle and put one 20-round mag in my back left pocket. I always had a rifle on with me, as I have encountered mountain lions and mine shafts before, and I just genuinely like to shoot shit. I get up on ridgelines and shoot boulders from a couple hundred yards away. Anyways, as soon as I climbed over the fallen tree, I had a fucking creepy feeling as if I was being watched. I continued on for about 200 yards, to the point where the road started curving right and gaining elevation. Going towards the cabin at this point, I had the realization that not only did I feel like I was being watched, it was also dead fucking quiet out. This was in June or so, as school had just got let out. Everywhere you went, you could hear these fucking cicadas, but not here. It seemed as soon as I crossed the fallen tree, the mountains were silent. No bugs, no birds, nothing. Just deafening silence. As I came up to the turn, there was this big fucking rock. The thing had to be about 15 feet in diameter. You could tell that it used to be on the road, but due to years of erosion, snow, and all of that shit, it had just slid down just slightly off the road. It seemed to be red limestone or something like that. It stood out since they are not that common in this area. I looked at the rock, and you could tell that there were carvings in it at some point in time. Due to weathering though, whatever was carved on it had been worn off. I kept walking up the road, being creeped out like fuck, but I really wanted to check out the old cabin, as it was pretty obvious no one had been there in quite a while. At this point, it was probably 3 hours off-road to get to this point. You're going to be going through Wells, which is closer to where this happened, probably about 30 miles south as the crow flies from there. After I post everything, I will look on Google Maps and see if I can find the cabin on there. I got up to the cabin, and as far as abandoned houses and cabins in Nevada go, this one was in pretty good shape. All the glass on the windows were still intact, and there were remnants of curtains behind the windows. By this point, there was something in the back of my mind telling me that I should be going. I went in the cabin, and that is where I started to get this feeling that something was off. Most cabins you find out in the middle of nowhere in Nevada are barren. Nothing really left. Maybe a bit of broken furniture. This one was completely furnished. Time had taken its toll, but everything was still there. What was left of an old mattress and bedding was still there. There were plates and other cookware throughout the house, along with tattered clothing and personal effects such as a chest, fading pictures, and the like. What really creeped me the fuck out was the dinner table. It was set for 4 people, dinner plate, glasses, and silverware. This was the first cabin I had ever found that was in this condition. It was as if whatever resided here had just up and left everything behind. I felt like I should not be in the cabin and went outside to see if I could find the mine shaft or anything else. Once I was out of the door, I decided to chamber around on my HK91. The sound of me racking around echoed throughout the canyon and broke the silence. As little of a thing as it was, this calmed my nerves very slightly. Directly behind the cabin was a well. It was still intact, and as I got closer, it sounded like there was noise coming from it, like a slight breeze rustling through it. When I got within about 30 feet of it, I started to smell something. It smelled absolutely fucking putrid. Definitely something had died in the well. The smell of decay was heavy in the air, with an acrid copper scent that tore up my nostrils. I did not want to get closer to the well, and started walking towards the left, where I could see the opening of the mine shaft up on the hill. The closer I got to it, I could start feeling a breeze coming out of it. This is not really uncommon if you have explored mine shafts before, as the breeze could be coming in from the other opening for the mine. But the thing was, it was perfectly calm. As far as I could see, there was no trees moving or any signs of wind. As I got closer, another thing that struck me as odd was the breeze coming out of the shaft was hot. Most of the time it was cool, as most mine shafts maintain a constant temperature. The closer I got to the shaft, the slower I moved towards it. Nothing since I crossed the fallen tree seemed right. The closer I got to the opening of the mine shaft, the more of a feeling of dread and being watched I got. I got within about 15 feet of the shaft when the fucking smell hit me. It was the smell of decay and copper, but much stronger than the well. Right then, all of my spidey senses started going off. I had to get out of there. I turned. I started turning left to book it out of there when I saw a dark shadow moving in the opening of the mine shaft. Whatever it was, it appeared to be crouched down to fit in the mine shaft. Most mine shafts I have been in have 8 to 10 feet ceilings. At first, I thought it was a mountain lion. Then I remembered how big the fucking shafts were. My mind raced, trying to think what the fuck it was. It was too big to be a black bear, which are rare in northeast Nevada. I nearly froze with panic. It slowly kept coming towards the opening of the shaft, and it slowly kept coming towards the opening of the mine shaft. It was probably within 10 feet of the opening, and the light was starting to show whatever the fuck was covered from head to toe in grayish brown fur. Then it fucking screamed. It was unlike anything I've ever heard in my fucking life. My ears were ringing from it. I flipped into panic mode and did what any good redneck would do. I fucking shot it. I pulled up my HK-91, placed the front blade on what appeared to be its center mass, and ripped off 5 rounds as fast as I could accurately shoot. If you have ever shot big game with a large caliber rifle, you know the sound when you connect with something. I had 4 solid thunks, and 1 round went high. This made it scream even louder than it had, in pain. At this time, I started hearing more and separate screams coming from over in the well and in the hills above the mine shaft. I started running down the hill as fast as I fucking could. In the tree line above the road, approximately 75 to 125 yards, I could see fast movement. Rocks were tumbling down the hill, and there were several of the screams from the mine shaft. I could hear the wailing of whatever the fuck I had shot. Whatever it was, I had definitely connected, and it was hurting. Whatever was up on the tree line, they were running from tree to tree on all fours, getting closer to me. As I ran towards the rock, I was shooting in the general vicinity of the movement on the top of the hill. By the time I got to the limestone rock, I have expended the 20-round mag in the rifle. I ripped out and put in my spare magazine, chambered around, and started sprinting towards the fallen tree, approximately 200 yards away by now. I kept glancing back, and whatever they were staying in the trees. I could make out their masses and fur, but they would not stay in the open. I got back to the fallen tree and ate shit trying to jump over it. I got up off my ass and fired between 12 to 15 rounds at the closest movement, which was approximately 50 yards away from now. I heard a few rounds connect, and it started screaming louder. Between the screaming and gunshots, my ears were damn near deaf. I opened the door of my truck and got the fuck in and started it up as fast as I could, backing up to turn around. I damn near put my truck in the canyon. As I started going forward to leave on the road I came in on was when I finally got a good look on one of them. It was crouched over with its front feet on the tree. It was covered from head to toe in grayish brown fur, with long slender fingers with claws tipping off the fingers. The back of it was hunched, and the face was slender, most closely resembling that of a badger, but with sunken-in eyes. It was shaking its head back and forth, and it sounded like it was attempting to speak, but it was so garbled. With the noise of my truck, I could not make out what the fuck it was. I averaged around 50 to 60 miles per hour on a shitty dirt road that I had done 15 on my way in. I did not slow down or stop until I got back to pavement. By now, I was so shaken, I had to stop and collect myself. I got back to town and was in a bit of a shock. My dad had been a guide in the Ruby Mountains for about 20 years. He asked me how my trip went and where I went. He could tell I was startled and asked where I had been. I told him that I had been north of Ruby Valley. He got quiet and asked if I had seen a cabin with a fallen tree over the road. I told him yes. He looked me in the eyes and told me that is somewhere I should never go again, especially alone. We never spoke about it again after that. I have never been back there. Part of the reason is I live in Western Nevada now. But in the back of my mind, there is something that is telling me I should go back, and one day I do want to go back. This was back in 2001, before camera phones, and I was too broke to afford a digital camera. I want to go back with a camera, preferably a GoPro on my helmet, and with several friends that are armed. Just something about there, even with the shit I experienced, is drawing me back. One day I will go back. I guess I need closure on what happened that day. I will probably be on for another 30 minutes or so. If anyone has any questions, after that, I can be reached by email